It looks like Ye is going to need to find a new bank to house his multi-billion-dollar Yeezy brand, because he's just been kicked out of the one that stored all his cash. The news came from none other than Candace Owens, who is apparently Kanye's best friend and confidant these days. The conservative commentator took to Twitter yesterday to share what looks like an official notice from JP Morgan Chase, saying that they're cutting ties with Ye. She wrote, "Earlier today, I learned that Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase Bank. I was told there was no official reason given, but they sent this letter as well to confirm that he has until late November to find another place for the Yeezy empire to bank. The letter itself suggests that the decision was a done deal and that Kanye would have until exactly November the 21st to transfer his business to another bank. In fact, the rapper himself confirmed that the letter was real, and he told Page 6, "Hey, if you call somebody out for bad business, that means you're being anti-Semitic. I feel happy to have crossed the line of that idea so we can speak openly about things like getting cancelled by a bank." He later called himself the richest black man in American history that put $140 million in JP Morgan. Amid the growing controversy, it looks like Kanye is getting closer with Candace Owens. He recently attended the premiere of her documentary, The Greatest Lie Ever Told, George Floyd and the Rise of BLM, and the two of them seem to be in constant contact with each other. Ye has associated himself with Candace for a while now, but their controversial friendship received new attention in light of his disastrous fashion show at Paris Fashion Week. Sources close to the situation have said that the two of them planned the White Lives Matter t-shirt stunt for weeks, which could explain Kanye's disastrous interview with Tucker Carlson, where he claimed that wearing the t-shirt was funny and obvious, and responded to the criticism by doubling down and calling the BLM movement a scam. He said, "I do certain things from a feeling, I just channel the energy. It just feels right. It's using a gut instinct, connection with God, and just brilliance. I thought it was a funny shirt. I thought the idea of me wearing it was funny. And I said, Dad, why do you think it was funny? And he said, just a black man stating the obvious." The rapper also made some really bizarre comments about Lizzo's body size and called her clinically unhealthy for her weight. Quote, "When Lizzo loses 10 pounds and announces it, the bots on Instagram, they attack her losing weight because the media wants to put out a perception that being overweight is the new goal when it's actually unhealthy." The whole segment was a complete car crash from start to finish, but then things only got worse when unaired clips from the interview were leaked online, which shows that the rapper went on a shocking rant, spewing a series of racist conspiracy theories. The full interview is so absurd that it cannot be played down. In the uncut segments, Ye claimed that professional actors playing fake children had been placed into his house to his kids. He also repeated claims that he had previously made that Louis Vuitton killed his best friend, Virgil Abloh, who was working for the luxury fashion house when he died of cancer at the age of 41 last year. Aside from the Fox News fiasco, it recently came out that Kanye has been locked out of his Twitter and Instagram accounts after making anti-Semitic posts, which caused a firestorm on social media. In a tweet posted last week, he wrote, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." The tweet was removed by Twitter and replaced with text that said it violated Twitter's rules, linking back to the company's platform use guidelines. In response, a chorus of celebrities like John Legend, Ariana Grande, and Elon Musk condemned his remarks. The SpaceX CEO tweeted, "Talked to Ye today and expressed my concerns about his recent tweet, which I think he took to heart." Other celebrities like Jamie Lee Curtis joined in. She tearfully addressed his shocking tweets on NBC, calling them abhorrent, and said, "It's bad enough that fascism is on the rise around the world, but on Twitter, on a portal, to pour that in?" Not only that, but Jimmy Kimmel addressed Kanye's tweets and joked that even Mel Gibson would have said, "Reel it in, buddy." In recent years, Kanye has been very comfortable broadcasting his thoughts to the world, no matter how insane or offensive they may be, but clearly he's starting to see some very serious consequences for what he is saying. What is going on between Kanye West and Candace Owens? Why is their growing friendship so disturbing to people? While some may say that they have a genuine connection, others believe that she's taking advantage of his unstable mental state. Whatever the case, everyone agrees that Kanye is clearly on a downward spiral and in need of some serious help. But is Candace Owens really the right shoulder to cry on? For some reason, reason she has access to extensive knowledge of his finances. Yesterday, she posted an official letter from JP Morgan Chase Bank that was sent to Kanye, which says that they have decided to cut ties with him. It's possible that Kanye sent it to her and told her to share it with the world, but it's still strange that she was the one to break the news to everyone on Twitter. She wrote, "Earlier today, I learned that Kanye West was officially kicked out of JP Morgan Chase Bank. I was told there was no official reason given, but they sent this letter as well to confirm that he has until late November to find another place for the Yeezy empire to bank." The letter goes on to say that he has until exactly the 21st of November to transfer his business to another bank. So I guess Kanye's money is no good to them now, even though he bragged about putting $140 million in JP Morgan. But people are noticing a pattern here. The more erratic and controversial that Kanye's antics become, the closer he seems to get with Candace Owens, who is apparently his #1 supporter these days. The rapper recently attended the premiere of her controversial new documentary called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold: George Floyd and the Rise of BLM, which aims to criticize the entire movement and how it raised millions of dollars during the protests. So to call Candace Owens a divisive figure would be the understatement of the century. But her friendship with Ye brought about a whole nother kind of outrage. During his disastrous show at Paris Fashion Week, Kanye showed up wearing a White Lives Matter t-shirt, which also happened to have the Pope's face on it. And no, he was not wearing it ironically. The phrase is considered a hate slogan by the Anti-Defamation League. It originated in 2015 following the start of the BLM movement. As the organization details on its website, certain supremacist groups started promoting the slogan as well, including the one that starts with the letter K. To make matters worse, Ye also had a lot of the models in the show wearing the same shirt, and he even posed for a photo with, guess who, Candace Owens, who was rumored to have planned the whole stunt with him. Although she adamantly denied the allegations this morning, telling TMZ, "Despite the veracity of the statement White Lives Matter, it is patently false that Ye and I were planning it for weeks, as you claim in your story. As you will recall from my interview with Tucker Carlson, I had no idea I would be wearing the t-shirt until I arrived in Paris as a guest to Ye's fashion show." She went on to say, "I am grateful to have been by his side for such an iconic moment, which fostered a much-needed national conversation. Also patently false is the idea that I am working for Ye as an advisor, or that I have made any calls on his behalf. If it isn't clear, Ye has never had any problem speaking out. But we might have to take what she's saying with a grain of salt, considering that some of Kanye's former friends have come out claiming that Candace is now acting as his chief advisor in his day-to-day life, and that she has been reaching out to people on his behalf, working to set up calls, meetings, and appearances." TMZ published a report recently speaking to former friends of Kanye who have distanced themselves from him after his recent outbursts. Many of them believe that he's in a bad space mentally, and that anyone working to persuade him to do anything other than get help doesn't have his best interests at heart. While there's zero proof that Candace is getting paid by Ye as an advisor or manager of some kind, it's pretty clear that anyone taking money from him at the moment would be taking advantage of him. So why is Candace all up in his business these days? In fact, just this week, she leaked an old voicemail that was sent from Kim Kardashian to her ex Ray J, where she called Whitney Houston an old hag. Candace was obviously trying to embarrass Kim, but how did she get a hold of the voicemail in the first place? You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to know that Kanye gave it to her. But why is he letting her do his bidding? And how on earth did she get so much influence over him? It looks like Kanye has landed himself in hot water yet again. This time it's for what he said about George Floyd. George Floyd's family attorney Lee Merritt spoke to TMZ about the potential lawsuit that might be filed against the rapper. Apparently, George's brother Illinois' Floyd is 100% committed to bringing some type of legal action against Ye. This is because of his recent appearance on the Drink Champs podcast, where he said, "I watched the George Floyd documentary that Candace Owens put out. One of the things that his two roommates said was that they wanted a tall guy like me, and the day that he died, he said a prayer for 8 minutes. If you look, the guy's knee wasn't even on his neck like that." He then went on to suggest that George had taken a powerful narcotic, and that's what had caused his death. But what Kanye mentioned was a conspiracy theory that's already been debunked in court. A jury has already agreed that former Minnesota police officer Derek Chauvin knelt on Floyd's neck according to his trial testimony. According to his trial testimony by the medical examiner who performed Floyd's autopsy and concluded that his death was the direct result of his subdual, restraint, and neck compression. So to suggest anything else would just be misinformation. But what really makes this worse is that it was Kanye who set up a college fund of $2 million for George Floyd's 7-year-old daughter. According to the family's attorney, they are considering pursuing something called intentional infliction of emotional distress. Merritt said that while a defamation lawsuit isn't possible because George is deceased, another possible path could be emotional emotional distress on behalf of the George Floyd Foundation or the family members themselves. In fact, just recently the Sandy Hook families were able to successfully sue Alex Jones, all for defamation because he called the parents of the victims actors. A jury awarded the victims' families a combined total of $956 million. But in Kanye's case, he didn't say anything about George's family members, but his comments on the podcast could still have a negative impact on them. So that's exactly why Merritt is confident that the family has grounds for a lawsuit. The bigger point here though is that Kanye needs to understand statements like the ones he's putting out into the world are false and hurtful. He then went on to say that that type of rhetoric undermines the Floyd family's efforts to pass legislation, like the George Floyd Policing Act, to help stop police brutality. He also says it deflects blame from the officers who've been convicted in connection to his murder, especially Derek Chauvin. But in terms of the lawsuit, the attorney makes it clear that there's still a lot of groundwork to do before anything's filed. He says that the family hasn't discussed a dollar amount, but they'll most likely sue for punitive damages. And considering Kanye's net worth, those would have to be several million to truly punish him. Merritt also pointed out that they plan to go through Candace's documentary to see exactly what she said and if there's any basis to bring legal action against her as well. The controversial right-wing documentary called The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, George Floyd and the Rise of BLM, rehashed the conspiracy theory surrounding his death and criticized the entire social movement following it. Candace essentially believes that the founders of BLM used the 2020 protests to make millions of dollars in donations and had no real intention of putting it towards the cause. The whole concept of her documentary is an investigation into who has the money and where it was spent, which as a standalone idea is already extremely contentious. Not to mention the fact that Candace and Kanye attended the premiere together and are almost like business partners now in everything that they do. During his show at Paris Fashion Week, both of them rocked up wearing White Lives Matter t-shirts and posed together for photos, which obviously caused an insane amount of backlash online. Candace then told TMZ, "I am grateful to have been by his side for such an iconic moment, which fostered a much-needed national conversation." Following that stunt, it also came out that Ye is buying the right-wing social network called Parler, which, you guessed it, is owned by George Farmer, aka Candace's husband. So why is Kanye pulling an Elon Musk and buying a whole social media platform? Well, he said, "In a world where conservative opinions are considered to be controversial, we have to make sure that we have the right to freely express ourselves." But not a lot of people know that Parler has been embroiled in controversy ever since the Capitol riots. A large number of those who stormed the US Capitol on January the 6th also used the platform to plan the event. But since Kanye is suspended from Twitter and Instagram, it's pretty clear that he's looking to find another corner of the internet where he can continue to blurt out his thoughts as soon as they pop into his head. Did Kanye just add ableist comments to his list of scandals? In his new interview on Piers Morgan Uncensored, Kanye started ripping into President Biden for not listening to Elon Musk and called him the R word. Although he knows it is an offensive term, he said that he believes he can use it because he's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. He claimed, "Biden doesn't listen to Elon Musk. The President of the United States does not have meetings with Elon Musk." He then drops the R word and says, "I know I'm not supposed to say that, Biden, but obviously because I've been deemed with mental health issues and all this, I have the right to use whatever words that I like to use." But interestingly enough, those issues didn't prevent Kanye from being fully aware of the ableism that has been associated with that language. He then started digging himself even deeper over his recent anti-Semitic comments when Piers Morgan asked him to apologize and said, "You don't hold accountability to my pain. You're being a Karen," which, if you don't know, is a derogatory word for a white woman who's been demanding or unreasonable and tries to use her privilege to get her own way. Piers then responded by saying, "I'm not a Karen. I'm not going to cancel you and I'm not going to uncensor you. I'm simply going to challenge you on what you're saying. I think you don't understand the pain that you've been causing with some of these comments." Then Kanye says, "God forbid one comment could cause people to feel any of the pain that my people have went through for years." Piers then explains that racism is racism and you know that, don't you? Then Kanye starts laughing and says, "Yeah, obviously, that's why I said it. I fought fire with fire. I'm not here to get hosed down. It's a different type of freedom fighter." While the rapper refused to apologize for his anti-Semitic rant, he did admit that he was only sorry for the people that he hurt, while trying to justify his actions as fighting fire with fire. He said, "I feel like I caused hurt and confusion, and I'm sorry for the families of the people who had nothing to do with the trauma that I've been through." When the broadcaster pointed out that one form of racism does not justify the other, Ye said said, "It's not racism. I was in a position where I was hurt, and this was the way I had the right to express myself." Things started to get personal when Kanye asked him how much money he's worth, and he told the presenter to take his advice so he can get richer. As the back and forth between them became way too heated, the rapper got frustrated and stormed out of the interview. Piers has since claimed that Ye's walkout left the team facing quite a struggle to come and get him back, but eventually he did return. But this newest interview is only the latest of a string of off-cuffed and inflaming comments that he has made. One person who checked his ableist statement was Howard Stern. He said, "I don't know much about Kanye West. I'm not big into the rap scene, but I'm really tired of people excusing his behavior by saying, well, he's just mentally ill." After explaining how he has been disenfranchised as a Jewish man and how Ye should not be able to freely spew hate speech, he said that he doesn't think that the rapper is mentally unable to control himself. Stern asked, if he's so mentally ill, why don't they appoint a conservator over his money like they did with the poor Britney Spears? While he does have a point, that's almost like comparing apples and oranges. It really shouldn't be done. Britney's conservatorship was not a good thing. She was essentially held prisoner by her family for 13 years, all because of a mental breakdown that would have happened to anyone in her position. But Stern does manage to bring up the question that's on everyone's mind lately. How much of Kanye's actions can be truly justified by his mental health struggles? It's certainly a grey area, not to mention the fact that many have pointed out that his behavior is actually worsening the social stigma surrounding bipolar disorder. In recent months, Kanye seems to have outdone himself when it comes to creating scandals. For instance, just recently he played a pornographic film for shocked Adidas executives during a meeting. The five-man gathering was filmed and uploaded to YouTube. In the video, everyone's faces was blurred out except for Kanye's. The meeting began with him holding his phone in front of the businessmen while a video played. After several seconds, the executives are obviously uncomfortable, and one of them asks if it's an X-rated movie, to which Kanye says yes. Then they said, "Jesus Christ, come on man, come on," and tried to push the phone away. So realistically, his latest ableist comments are just going to be added to the laundry list of scandals that have been following him in recent months. Is Adidas going to drop Kanye? It certainly looks like it. Balenciaga and Vogue are the latest fashion companies to sever ties with Kanye after his string of scandals over the last month. Balenciaga's parent company said in a statement that it no longer had a relationship with Ye, even though he opened their Paris Fashion Week runway show a few weeks ago. Then on Friday, it became apparent that Vogue also dropped him, after a spokesperson told Page 6 that its editor-in-chief Anna Wintour has no plans to continue working with Ye. Both companies started distancing themselves from the rapper after he went on the Drink Champs podcast for a controversial 45-minute conversation, claiming that George Floyd was not murdered by police officers, but instead died from narcotics. That statement alone has also inspired a $250 million lawsuit from the surviving family. Between that and the plethora of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, it's clear that both fashion houses could no longer stand by him. Now it looks like Adidas is set to follow suit. The company has already stated that their distribution deal of Kanye's Yeezy line was under review after his White Lives Matter t-shirt stunt at Paris Fashion Week. But many are wondering what is taking so long for them to denounce him. It could be something to do with the fine print of his lucrative contract. On Friday, Rex Chapman retweeted a 30-second clip of Kanye boasting that his relationship with Adidas means that he can say whatever he likes without repercussions. On the Drink Champs podcast, he said, "I can literally say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me. Now what?" Shortly after his comments went viral, the Anti-Defamation League urged the company to break ties with him, saying, "We were disturbed to learn that Adidas plans to continue to release new products from his Yeezy brand, without any seeming acknowledgement of the controversy surrounding his most recent remarks. We urge Adidas to reconsider supporting the Ye product line, and to issue a statement making clear that the Adidas company and community has no tolerance whatsoever for anti-Semitism." The boycott Adidas hashtag then started trending on social media, with many people obviously confused over how the company seems to be standing by their man. Josh Gad, Alexander Vidman, Rosanna Arquette, and David Schwimmer were among the many who called out Adidas online. As for Kanye's response, he made it clear that Yeezy was prepared to go it alone and end his partnerships with both Gap and Adidas. He told Bloomberg in a September phone interview, "No one should be held in that position where people can steal from them and say, 'We're just paying you to shut up.'" "It's fine, I made the company's money. The company made me money. We created ideas that will change apparel forever." Kanye went on to call both Adidas and Gap his new baby mamas, saying, "I guess we're just going to have to co-parent those 350s. He then talked about himself in third person and said, "Now it's time for Ye to make the new industry. No more companies standing in between me and the audience." The rapper also stopped to talk to TMZ about his recent controversies, saying, "I ain't losing no money. The day I was taken off the Balenciaga site, that was one of the most freeing days." Adding that he and Adidas are now going through legal, so anything can happen. But it's not only Adidas that are getting slammed for their silence. In a video posted to Instagram on Saturday, English pop star Boy George said that he was appalled by Kanye's recent comments and criticized Kim Kardashian for not openly addressing her ex-husband's words. He said, "Listening with great sadness to the anti-Semitic comments coming out of Kanye West's mouth. I'm appalled that Kim Kardashian hasn't come out and added her voice to this debate, because this woman has children with Kanye, so she must understand as a mother what it feels like for little Jewish children to hear these effing comments, how demoralizing and terrifying it must be." George then went on to say that as a gay man, "I have experienced years of prejudice, so the idea of doing that to someone else based on their race or their color or their sexuality or their gender is just effing appalling to me, and it should be appalling to you." While it's unreasonable to demand that Kim should take responsibility for her ex-husband's comments, a lot of people are upset with the fact that she just refuses to address them. So far, the only Kardashian to do so is Khloe, who reposted a statement from Jessica Seinfeld on Instagram saying that she supports the Jewish community. In fact, Kanye's remarks have already had a disturbing effect. Earlier this month, a group of 5 people, all wearing hats and masks, showed their support for him by hanging an anti-Semitic banner from an LA highway, which essentially read, "Honk if you support what Kanye is saying." So there is plenty of reason for the Kardashians to publicly criticize the scandal, given that there are already some very real-world consequences to the things that he has been saying. Why are people saying Kanye has reached the point of no return? Well, because it's official. It looks like Adidas has officially ended their billion-dollar partnership with him. The German sports brand says that it does not tolerate anti-Semitism and calls Kanye's recent remarks unacceptable, hateful, and dangerous, and that they violate the company's values of diversity and inclusion, mutual respect, and fairness. Shockingly, Adidas said that ending their partnership with him would mean taking a short-term hit of around $240 million to its income for the year, but they have put the decision into immediate effect, where they will end production of items under the Yeezy brand and stop all payments to the musician and his companies. They took their sweet time cutting ties with Kanye though, but probably because it was a very difficult call to make, since in 2020 the partnership brought in nearly $1.7 billion in revenue for them. The monetary loss will be a huge blow to Adidas, but realistically the pressure to act was really mounting against them, and they might have lost even more money in the long term if they stayed with him. The boycott Adidas hashtag started trending on social media over the last couple of days, which obviously reflects the people's growing frustration with the company and how they seem to be standing by their man. Josh Gad, Alexander Vidman, Rosanna Arquette, and David Schwimmer were among the many who called out the company online. Adidas' move comes after Balenciaga, Gap, and JP Morgan Chase all cut ties with Ye after repeated anti-Semitic remarks. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the rapper's longtime talent agency, CAA, stopped representing him in the past month as well. Last week, it became apparent that Vogue also dropped him, after a spokesperson told Page 6 that the fashion house and its editor-in-chief Anna Wintour have no plans to continue working with Ye. So it wasn't long before Adidas came into the spotlight as well. The Anti-Defamation League urged the company to break ties with him, saying, "We were disturbed to learn that Adidas plans to continue to release new products from his Yeezy brand without any seeming acknowledgement of the controversy surrounding his most recent remarks. We urge Adidas to reconsider supporting the Ye product line and to issue a statement making it clear that the Adidas company and community has no tolerance whatsoever for anti-Semitism." On Friday, Rex Chapman retweeted a 13-second clip of Kanye boasting that his relationship with Adidas means that he can say whatever he likes without repercussions. On the Drink Champs podcast, he said, "I can literally say anti-Semitic things, and Adidas can't drop me, now what? Which really put the sportswear brand under intense scrutiny. In addition to everything else, just yesterday it was reported that Johnny Depp's attorney Camille Vasquez has stopped working with Kanye as well. The lawyer apparently told her firm that she was not willing to represent the billionaire rapper less than a week after he hired her. Despite her position, the firm was still open to working with him if he were to retract his statements, but obviously he didn't do that. There's no doubt that the 45-year-old star has a history of courting controversy, but until recently he hasn't experienced many repercussions for his behavior. Now even his ex-wife Kim Kardashian is speaking up against hate speech and condemning Kanye's comments. On Monday morning, the reality star finally addressed the scandal, tweeting, "Hate speech is never okay or excusable. I stand together with the Jewish community and call on the terrible violence and hateful rhetoric towards them to come to an immediate end." Unfortunately though, Kanye has since doubled down on his comments. In a new podcast interview with Lex Fridman, he made yet another series of offensive and blatantly false statements about history, reproductive healthcare, and of course Jewish people. He did seem regretful though about how much he has lost in the process, saying, "I lost my effing family, I lost my kids, I lost my best friend in fashion, I lost the black community. People say I lost my mind, I lost my reputation, and I'm up here just like, I just want my family." Kanye went on to say that he wants to be an American and protect his kids and wife, and have them all become Christian. In that same interview, he also accused Ari Emanuel, who is the chief executive of William Morris Endeavor, of trying to take food out of his children's mouths by writing an op-ed in the Financial Times calling for companies to cut ties with him. When asked about what he hopes his legacy will be, he said, "Who designed the sidewalk? Who designed the water fountain? Who designed the stop sign? Who designed the stoplight? These things are so ubiquitous that the person who designed them is forgotten." He said that all he wants for himself is to be forgotten. So do you think all these companies were right to drop him? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.